Hi, my name is Leena. Welcome back to my channel. Not to jinx it, but I've been having a really good semester so far and my grades and study habits are the best that they ever have been, and I think I can attribute that, one, to less stressful and dramatic events happening in my life, but more importantly two, I feel like I'm finally learning how I work best when it comes to study and how I can help myself with different habits and mindsets to work with my strengths and weaknesses rather than against them. I've always kind of struggled to stay focused and motivated on study, especially if it's for things that I'm not interested in, but because I grew up naturally quite academically strong, I didn't really have to develop good study habits until late high school years. University years when content does actually start getting a bit harder and you do have to start putting more effort in. Study is going to look different depending on what you're studying and what you're actually learning, but as a third year psychology student, these are some little niche tips and tricks that have kind of helped me become a better and more efficient student. These are kind of things that have worked for my brain, which likes to jump around and really doesn't like to just sit in one spot and study for 6 hours straight. They're not just your generic tips like stay organized and use a planner and don't cram, because sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, and trust me, I know that. My most important tip, and if you take anything away from this video, I want it to be this, and that is that studying is a mindset. If you tell yourself you're dreading studying, of course you're going to hate it and you're going to procrastinate and you're not going to stay concentrated, because why would you if you hate doing it? You have to find ways to be interested and excited in what you're studying, and sometimes that'll come really naturally because you're actually wanting to do what you're wanting to do, and other times when the content is perhaps more dry, it might be a bit harder, but you have to kind of have a why behind why you're putting so many hours into your study. For me, my why for my study focus this semester was because I do want to progress with my degree and I do want to get into psychology honours, which is quite competitive, and I wanted to boost my grades so that I could make sure that I get in. There is obviously a whole bigger reason why I'm studying psychology in the first place, but you will all have your whys and you kind of need to figure that out. You've got to try to make study enjoyable and interesting, because when you do, it's going to be exciting. You're going to want to put in those hours, and that is kind of what most of these tips are going to be kind of gearing towards. I personally really struggle to study at home, especially if there's, people around or chores to be done. All of my guitars are around. There's just a lot happening and my mind will find any excuse not to study if it can. It just makes it a lot harder to stay kind of focused in. So I know if I have to get study done, I will take myself somewhere else. Doesn't matter where it is, a library, a cafe, a friend's house that you'll actually study with, or I don't know, Ibiza, literally anywhere that is novel and stimulating and doesn't have as many distractions. This tip works especially well when you're surrounded by others who are also being productive, because one, it motivates you to be productive too, and two, you don't want to be the person that disturbs all the others in the environment or the friends that you're studying with. I've been doing this since early high school. Like anytime I've had to do big study, I always try to make sure I'm either doing it with someone or in an environment where there are other people around to almost keep me accountable, and I never realized it had a name, which is body doubling. So it has actually been researched, and even if I'm at a cafe and there's people talking around me, I have a laptop in front of me, I don't want to look unproductive, so I feel like it actually does really help me. Adding onto this, working in like a cafe or a communal environment where you're having to spend money on a drink, I feel like adds just a little bit of extra motivation as well. I'm not saying you have to spend money to study every single time, but I find that now that I've spent $6 on my soy latte or a matcha or something, I feel like I really have to make the most of that time and I am more productive. It is also really nice to have something to sip on while you study, so even when I do find myself having to study at home, normally there is a glass of juice or something nearby, and I'm not gonna lie, the caffeine in the coffee does definitely help you to concentrate as well. Rewarding yourself after you finish studying is also very important if you struggle with it, because it kind of reinforces like that positive feedback loop, I find. So whether that little treat be something small from the cafe on your way out, or getting to do the thing that you really wanted to do, or simply just the relaxation time afterwards without having to feel guilty because you've already done your big study block, does help you kind of get into a better routine with it all. At the same time, if you find yourself getting really distracted while you're studying because you're thinking about whatever you have to do next or whatever you're kind of itching to do, whether that actually be something genuine and important like, I don't know, an email or your laundry, or you're just really keen on watching that next Netflix episode, sometimes it does help you if you can just get it out of the way first and then you can have the time later to study. But of course, this is all based on your own self-regulation and how you know yourself. If you can trust yourself to do that one thing or watch that one episode, then you might actually be getting a better study session afterwards out of it. I find this to be especially true with exercise, which has been proven time and time again to actually be really good for our minds and our concentration, because it releases feel-good endorphins and important neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. If you know you have a big study day ahead, sometimes getting a little workout in the morning can be just what you need to get in the right mindset to smash all that study out. Personally, I used to try and use surfing as like a little reward for getting my study session done. So I'd drive down to the beach and I'd sit in the cafe nice and early in the morning and try to get about like 2 or 3 hours of study done, and then I could go in the water. But I found I was kind of just like looking out the window and looking at the beach and just really wanting to get in. So I found that if I actually go first thing in the morning, my mind feels so much fresher and my body is kind of like that nice level of tired where I'm perfectly happy sitting down for a few hours and just can concentrate so much better. It obviously doesn't have to be surfing, it can be, you know, like a run or a walk or the gym or any other form of movement that feels good to you. Alongside exercise, building up a good routine in general is one of the most beneficial things you can do for your study and just for having a good work-life balance in general. This might mean committing to a few hours of study either in the morning as you wake up or just before bed. Everyone feels different with what time of the day they feel they can work more efficiently, so getting to know yourself and how your mind and body work can be really beneficial and help you kind of maximize your efficiency so you can spend less time studying but still get the same outcomes. I have found that my brain does actually work so much better in the mornings and my concentration will slowly deteriorate as the day goes on. On days when I'm not working or days that I plan on studying, I go for a surf in the morning and then try to get as much done in the few hours of the morning as I can before I do much else. That way I don't really feel guilty if I can't kind of force myself to study in the evenings, but if I do need that extra study time, I try to kind of give myself the easier tasks or the easier subjects to do in the evening, so that way it's more enjoyable and I'm able to do them a bit easier. If you do work better in the evenings, it might be a good idea to kind of block out a certain time block on certain days so that you can actually commit to having that chunk of study as well. Like I said before, everyone is different in what they're learning and the ways that they are learning it, but for me, psychology is a lot of memorizing and kind of applying, so it does mean a lot of note taking and then reviewing those notes. I used to definitely be team handwriting over typing because I did definitely feel that I remembered so much more, so much easier, and also just like the feel of physically writing on paper. But at the same time, it took me so much longer to find things when I needed to find something super specific. I'd also get kind of frustrated when we'd have very diagram heavy subjects or anatomy based subjects where we'd need to remember parts of the brain, or I just wanted to add in some extra notes but my pages were kind of already full, so I couldn't do that. So I found the best of both worlds to be digital note taking using my iPad and the app GoodNotes. I use the Cornell note system when writing out my notes, and it helps to kind of keep everything organized and differentiate big subject topics. I use different colors for all my subjects and to define headings or important things. These techniques can definitely be applied to, you know, handwriting or typing, but being able to control F on my own handwriting has been a game changer for me. Having a plan for exactly what you want to study that day is important, and it can help to keep you on track. This could be done on like a little to-do list, whether it be, you know, a section of your assignment or a specific group of readings for a certain topic. You definitely feel so much more accomplished and get that little dopamine hit when you get to physically tick or cross something off your list, and it is so rewarding watching your list kind of slowly go down. It's also helpful to have kind of like a countdown going for when important assignments are due or exams are coming up. This is what I have in my room, and it's something that I see every single day, so it's kind of like a daily reminder of how soon everything is due, and it also makes me really excited for when everything is done and I get to just rub everything off the whiteboard. As for actually preparing for these exams, your tutors or your course conveners will usually release like an outline of everything that you need to learn or know for the exam, and you should use this to kind of guide your study sessions. I like to kind of collate the learning outcomes or specific dot points of exam content areas onto one big Word doc and then physically print it out so I can highlight or cross off the areas that I am confident in, and it kind of makes the areas that I'm not quite so confident in really apparent. You know where you kind of need to go with the rest of your study. Quizlet is a really great resource for revision, and it lets you kind of test yourself and make online flashcards. What's even better about it though is that it makes the flashcard sets that other people make public, so you can access the material that other people are using to study. Never have I ever actually made my own Quizlet set, but if you look up your course code and like your subject or your university, there is 100% someone out there who has been more organized, or like a student from a past year who has taken everything that you need to know and made it into a little flashcard set that is all there for you to use. So you may as well take advantage of it. But also, if your uni gives out practice questions or past exam papers, definitely do these. Spend more time doing these than reading your notes once you've kind of got them gathered together, because they really help you to identify your weak points and also help you to kind of apply your knowledge, which is what the exam is testing, rather than just regurgitating everything that you've learned. If there's kind of limited practice questions out there for you to do, there's normally revision questions at the end of your chapters in your textbooks, and it also really helps when you kind of test yourself with friends going back and forward, because in that way you get to hear the responses as well, so it helps you remember things and then it helps them remember things. If you're really struggling to remember something like a formula or a brain region or a model or just something with a really long name, try to associate it with something in your brain. The weirder the better, the crazier the better, because it'll help you remember it. One example is I'm currently studying a subject that needs me to know about eating disorders. One of the eating disorders that I wasn't familiar with before doing the subject was called pica, and pica basically is when people, usually kids, kind of eat non-nutritional things like hair and paper and just random stuff like that. So the way I remembered that, or the association my brain made, was Pika, Pikachu. Pikachu is small, and I just kind of have this vision of him just like munching on something in my mind, and because he's small, Pika can lead to stunted growth because of the lack of nutrition, so that kind of goes together. Also, acronyms are really good, like this one that helped me study for my last mid-try when I did IB chemistry in high school, and we had to memorize the elements of the periodic table. You better believe I listened to that song non-stop until it got stuck in my head. We all know the song.
There's hydrogen and helium, then lithium, beryllium.
Sometimes music can be super helpful and sometimes it can be super distracting, but personally I do like to listen to music while I'm studying or writing an assignment, provided I'm not like watching lectures, because otherwise I find I will like accidentally eavesdrop on the conversations of people around me once I start to get a little bit bored. Words and music can be super distracting, so I like to listen to either chill instrumental stuff or like intense guitar solo stuff. I don't know if you ever see me studying with headphones, and just know it's either this or it is this. No in between. Just kidding, but also not really. But I do find like instrumental Pink Floyd stuff really good to study to, because the songs are like so long. And also this really weird album by Mac DeMarco, which is like 200 songs that are basically all instrumental. Some of them are a bit weird, so they definitely skips when you're studying, when you hear like a bunch of clanking noises. But for the most part, it's kind of groovy and it kind of gets me in a good study mood. I know lo-fi music or like brown noise or really chill like rain sounds also work for a lot of people, so you just gotta find what works best for you. Lastly, and this is the one basic study tip that I'm going to give, but you will concentrate so much better if you are prioritizing your sleep and your eating and your routines. Really try to get in those 8 hours of sleep, because it does make such a big difference. And if that means studying earlier for your exams, then by all means. And our brains also do run on carbohydrates, so making sure that you are eating good meals and do have snacks nearby if you're studying for hours on end. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's about all I have for today. Take from this video what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. Just reiterating it once again, the best study tip that I have and what's helped me the most with studying better is simply just learning to enjoy it more and finding ways to make it more fun for myself. I actually really enjoy studying now, and my little routines and my little treats that I give myself for doing it definitely help with that. Hopefully this video helped some of you as well, and if it did, please do consider liking and subscribing. And if you have your own study tips or any other questions, please do leave them down in the comments below. Good luck on all of your study endeavors, whatever they may be, and I will see you guys in another video very soon.